this is going to be a rant, and I'm sorry for having a rant so soon, but I had an experience not too long ago that still stuck with me even now, and I seen something that brought it back up and how I felt, and I just wanted to kind of warn everybody, I guess, and to make sure that everyone is more cautious to a degree. I don't want to turn anybody away from the fish keeping hobby or to turn anybody away from shopping at a certain store, but not too long ago, I walked into a store, and this was before my new 60 was set up completely, and didn't have a test kit yet for that particular tank. All we had were test strips, which I'll get into later. They're great to have as a emergency source, but I don't trust them entirely just because they're so vague. But I didn't have an actual way to truly test the quality of the water, and a lot of stores offer free water testing. So I decided to vial up, because we have little plastic vials that we use, about 4 samples of water, and I brought it to 4 different locations to just kind of see what the difference would be between each store and where exactly the water stood. I walked into this store, and I'm not going to mention any names because I just don't feel the need to do that. I don't feel the need to put anybody down or a business down because they are trying to make a living. But I walked into the store, handed her the vial, said, "Hey, I know you guys do free water testing. Could you test this out for me? I want to see how close we are to being cycled." And we had to wait 5 minutes, which is standard for a water test. And I will do a tutorial on water testing coming up within the week, hopefully, to show you exactly why it takes 5 minutes and how to do it with an appropriate kit. But I walk in, handed the guy the water, and asked him if he could test it. He's like, "Yeah, absolutely, no problem." So he tested the water. We walked around while we were waiting, looked at what they had, which was a decent selection, but it wasn't great in my opinion. And after a couple minutes, he comes up to us and he says, "Hey, come over here and take a look. Your water's tested." So perfect. So where does it stand? He goes, "Everything is high. It's no good at all. So here, why don't you buy this, and this? This will get it ready. You could, come back tomorrow after you put all this stuff in, and you can buy fish and put them in immediately." Now, I don't like to do that anyways. I'm not one that, I use Quick Start, don't get me wrong, and I mostly use it just to boost bacteria. I don't necessarily use it and then put fish in right away. And I'll explain that a little bit later, but there's a way to cycle the tank that works and the way to cycle the tank that might work. So the guy's like, I told him flat out, I said, I don't really want to buy all this stuff. I don't feel the need to. And it was almost $100 worth of chemicals that he wanted to put into the tank. And he's like, "Well, I guess I could give you a goldfish that's like 20 cents. You could put that in there and see how it does. If it makes it, great, come back, get some more fish. And if it doesn't, then I'm only out 15 cents. And this is exactly how he phrased it, folks. "I'm only out 15 cents. He tried to make $100 off of us on stuff that I don't feel we needed, okay? And then, on top of that, was willing to sacrifice a fish. Whether it's a 15-cent feeder or a $50 discus, it doesn't matter. It's a fish. And he was willing to sacrifice this fish to see if the tank was cycled, even after he had done the test. Thanked him. I said, "No thanks. I'd rather not do that. I'm not one to put a fish into an environment that I think could be stressful for them. Whether they're hardy enough to survive it or not is a little irrelevant in my mind. I don't want to purposely put a fish into an environment that could harm it, or any living creature for that matter." And we left. Thank you for everything. We'll see you later. And we went to another store. Remember, I had 4 vials. So I walked into another store, I had them do a water test on it, and come to find out, the water wasn't that bad. It was a little high. Granted, it hadn't finished completely cycling yet. It had been maybe 3 weeks or so that I had everything going, and it was just about cycled. Now, wait a minute. The last guy just told me that I needed to spend $100 on chemicals. You're telling me it's okay? Long story short, be careful where you go. I mean, it's when a company or a business has the mentality of, well, I just want to make money. I'm just in it for profit. I don't care about the lives of the animals that I keep. They're more inclined to do things that are a little more shady, if you will, or give you some false information. Not necessarily wrong information, but something that may benefit them that's not the entire truth, which a lot of companies are good at, just giving you tidbits of information that'll keep you going instead of giving you the all full out truth, right? So we brought it to another store again. Didn't buy any fish just yet either, because again, the tank wasn't 100% cycled yet. But we went to another store to look because we were store hopping. It was a weekend. We had nothing better to do. And brought it to another store again, used another vial, had them test the water. They used test strips, and it still tested slightly high. It wasn't through the roof high. And here, the guy was like, I'll tell you what, why don't you go home? Obviously it's almost cycled. Try doing a water change on it. Drain about 50% of the water because your nitrates are higher than what they should be right now, which I already knew. And he's like, at that point, you should be good to put fish in there. And he was absolutely right. Knowing what I know, having the experience that I have, knowing what the test results were, I knew that if I did a water change that same night, I could go back out and buy fish if I wanted and put them in, and they'd have been completely fine. But again, it would have been a little stressful on him, and that's not something I wanted to do. But he went the extra mile for me. He's like, hey, this is what you need to do. And that's what you really need to look for. If you're going to a fish shop or any place that sells live animals, and their number one concern is, hey, let me help you get this set up so we don't harm any fish. You have a great a great experience. Here's the example of what we can do for you. This is what you can do to get your system up and running correctly. This is what you should be at. Do this first, then come back and see me and we'll go from there. That's where you want to go. They're the ones that are concerned not just with keeping customers and customer retainment, but they're worried about the livestock that they carry, and they want to make sure that everyone has the best experience. If you go to a place like that and you buy a fish, you put it in your tank and it dies, and you bring it back to them and say, hey, this is what happened. We just got these a couple days ago. They didn't make it. They're immediately going to want to do a water test. They test your water and it's bad. They have the right to say, well, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and we're not going to do anything for you. Most stores that are willing to help you in that way, that will go the extra mile to tell you what you need to do to get it set up, may issue you a credit. Most likely they'll say, you know what, we'll give you a couple fish, but we're not going to do it right now because your tank's not ready. They want you to come back. They want you to have a good experience. And by doing this, you're more likely to go back to them and buy more and more fish from them, which is great. If you walk into a store, here's $100 worth of chemicals, put all this stuff in. Once you do this, throw this fish in there and maybe it'll make it, maybe it won't, let us know. You bring, the fish home, it dies, you bring it back. Well, we already knew your water wasn't good, but we gave you this 15-cent fish. But now, let's try this fish or that fish and go, and you buy more fish and you go home, you dump them in the tank because you don't know any better. You might be new to the hobby. And once again, they die. So you bring them back to the store again. And mind you, this is your third trip. And they say, well, the water's still not good. So, you can keep putting fish in here until it's good. Some of them might make it and they'll try to build your hopes up just to keep making that money. They don't care if the animal dies. They don't care if you're having a great experience or not. They care about their bottom line. Don't get me wrong. Stores need to make money. The best way, in my opinion, is customer retainment. If you go to a store 3 times, 3 batches of fish die, are you going to go back there? I'm not. Absolutely not. But if I go to a store where I buy a batch of fish and a couple of them don't make it and I bring them back and say, hey, I'm not sure what happened. All of these are doing great. These ones aren't. Here's my water. They tested. It's, hey, your water's good. I don't know what happened. Maybe they were stressed. Might have moved them too soon. There could be any number of reasons they didn't make it. Let's look into it a little bit more and see what we can do to help you out so it doesn't happen again. Here's a store credit for the fish that didn't make it. That's where I'm going to go shop. It's just, it's the way I am. Now, I'm going to name drop, and I really don't like doing that. But if you go check out Corey from Aquarium Co-op, the man gets every single fish and quarantines it for a month that he receives. Okay, I've never shopped there personally. I've never met Corey. I don't know anything about him other than what I've seen on YouTube. But he quarantines his fish for a month. The fish store that I went to, you've seen, they quarantine their fish for a week. Corey goes as far as medicates every fish he gets. He cares about his livestock as well as his customers. And it shows by what you see. That's someplace you're going to want to go to shop. And if he was closer to me, I would go there all the time. He doesn't offer fish online anymore, so it's kind of a catchy situation for me, a tricky situation. But I would go to that store all the time, just like I do with the fish store that I showed you. I go there all the time because they do these things. You know, I like I said, I hate to rant, but just buyer beware. Just make sure when you go into any fish store that you are looking at the quality of the fish. Make sure that they're healthy. Make sure that they seem okay. The number one thing you can do for yourself if you're new to this hobby is learn what a healthy fish looks like. 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, we didn't have the access to the information we do now. You simply click a couple of buttons on a computer, you pull up the internet, you can search anything. Do yourself a favor and do that. Because once you do that, you're going to know going into that store, hey, this fish doesn't look that great. Maybe I don't want to get it because something seems kind of funky. Let people know at the fish store, at the pet store. Hey, these fish don't look all that great. See what they have to say for themselves. Maybe they'll immediately quarantine them and say, you're right, let's take care of this. Or they may say, oh, they look perfectly fine. I don't know what you're talking about. You can kind of see where I'm going. Look for the healthier fish. Make sure you're in an environment where they care about the livestock, not just making a buck. It's silly. The companies that are always worried only about making money are the ones that are going to fail. Hands down every time. Because they don't put enough investment into the stuff that they carry, the stuff that they sell, to make their customers put that same investment in them. Anyways, that's the end of my rant, guys. Guys and gals, I am so sorry to do that and rant, but something happened the other night and it brought it back up to me. There's a ton of emotions that I had. The guy was willing to just, even though it's a 15-cent goldfish, you know, to sacrifice any type of livestock just to see when you already know. And then on top of that, lie about the situation of the water. Yeah, it's not good. But just like for newer and more experienced fish keepers alike, be careful where you buy from. Be careful what you're getting. Make sure you always check out your fish before you leave the store. You know, always try to have the best experience. That's all I can really say on it. But the video went kind of long. Sorry for ranting. If you guys have any questions on anything I've said, or if you have any comments regarding what I've said, please make sure to put those below. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. We're still working on the fish room, and I will have a tour coming up of that relatively soon. We've done some updating. As you've seen in my last video, I couldn't shoot down here because we were currently remodeling a little bit, and there's still some more to go. So make sure you check out that video as well. And as always, happy fish keeping.